One of the biggest traps we fall into, especially in this hyper-connected, constantly scrolling world, is comparison. And not the kind that inspires or encourages, but the kind that quietly erodes our confidence, our clarity, and ultimately our commitment to our own goals. It happens subtly. You see someone else winning, getting the promotion, buying the house, launching the business, going viral, and you start questioning your own pace, your own path. That voice creeps in, why am I not there yet? What am I doing wrong? Should I be doing what they're doing? Let's slow that down for a second, because what we're really doing when we compare is robbing ourselves of presence, of focus, of energy. You're handing over your attention, your most powerful tool for growth, to someone else's story. And what's worse, you're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel. That's not fair to you. That's not real, and that's not productive. There's a well-known phrase of comparison is the thief of joy, but I'll take it a step further. Comparison is the thief of us progress. It doesn't just make you feel bad, it actually slows you down. Psychologically, what happens when we compare is that we shift into scarcity mode. We begin to believe there's a limited amount of success, happiness, recognition, love. So someone else's win becomes your loss, and that's false. Life isn't a zero-sum game. Their win doesn't mean you're losing. It simply means they're on their journey, and your only responsibility is to stay on yours. The truth is, most people don't fail because they aren't talented, smart, or capable. They fail because they get distracted. They spend more time watching others climb than climbing themselves. Think about that. How much mental real estate do you rent out to comparison? How often do you derail your own progress because someone else's success makes you second-guess your strategy? And look, I get it. We all want to feel seen, validated, affirmed. It's human. But when that need turns into a habit of comparison, you lose touch with your own why. And when you forget your why, you lose your way. The moment you start chasing someone else's version of success, you begin abandoning your own purpose. That's where the detour begins. That's how people wake up years later wondering how they got so far off track. Not because they didn't have potential, but because they were too busy measuring their worth by someone else's journey. Philosophically, this points to something deeper. We're not just talking about success here, we're talking about identity. Who are you when you're not looking at anyone else? What choices would you make if no one was watching? What would you build if there was no audience, no applause, no algorithm to impress? That's the real test. That's where authenticity lives. And authenticity, that quiet, grounded connection to your purpose, is what separates lasting success from temporary hype. You see, when you focus too much on others, you abandon your own narrative. And when you abandon your narrative, your goal becomes reactive instead of intentional. Instead of leading your life, you start responding to everyone else's. That's not freedom. That's a mental prison. And the key, it's always been in your hands. Refocusing on your own lane, getting clear about your why, practicing gratitude for where you are, without being bitter about where you're not. Now, let's talk practically for a second, because shifting out of the comparison trap isn't just about mindset, it's about management. You have to manage your inputs. If your feed is filled with people who constantly trigger envy, you need to curate better. If certain conversations leave you drained and doubting, protect your peace. If someone's journey genuinely inspires you, let that motivation fuel your own path, not distract from it. You are the gatekeeper of your focus. And where your focus goes, your energy flows. You don't need to outrun anyone, you just need to run your race well, consistently, with integrity, with intention. That's it, because success, real, sustainable, fulfilling success, isn't loud, it's not flashy, it's not always visible from the outside. Sometimes success looks like discipline, like showing up when it's boring, like taking the call, writing the plan, doing the reps, even when no one's clapping. That's the kind of focus that builds something worth celebrating. And the best part, when you get clear on your own mission, other people's success doesn't intimidate you. It inspires you. You stop seeing them as competition and start seeing them as proof. Proof that it's possible, that there's room, that it's worth it. So let's cut through the noise. Let's reclaim our focus. Let's stop watching the scoreboard and start playing the game. Because your goal, your dream, your vision, your legacy deserves more than your leftovers. It deserves your full attention. And here's what I'll leave you with ours. You cannot master your purpose while measuring your progress against someone else's. Stay in your lane. Honor your path, and let your focus be louder than your doubt. When you decide to pursue a goal, really pursue it, you have to understand one simple truth. Not everything or everyone can come with you. You can't chase your dream with one hand while holding on to distractions with the other. Focus, real focus, is not something that happens by accident. It's an act of intentional war against everything trying to pull your attention away. Because in today's world, distraction is the default. Focus is the resistance. Think about this: we live in a time where everything is demanding your attention. Notifications, opinions, updates, expectations, criticism. You don't even have to look for it. It finds you, and if you're not grounded in your mission, you will get pulled into that current. You'll start reacting instead of creating. You'll drift instead of drive. And before long, your goal, that vision you had, the one that gave you chills when you first imagined it, becomes blurry, out of reach, lost in the fog of everything that doesn't matter. Tunnel vision is not a flaw. It's a discipline. It's a skill. And if you want to accomplish something meaningful, something that outlives the trend cycle, you need to master it. That means silencing the noise, not because you're being arrogant, but because your dream is too important to be diluted by distractions. Let's break this down a bit deeper. Psychologically, your brain is wired for efficiency. It wants to conserve energy. That's why multitasking feels productive but rarely is. Every time you switch from one task to another, from your goal to someone's opinion, from your plan to your fears, from your calling to your comfort, you pay a cost. There's cognitive residue left over from that shift, and that residue builds up. Over time, you're not just distracted, you're depleted. Now apply that to your goals. Imagine trying to build something, a business, a book, a healthier life, a mindset shift, while constantly being pulled sideways by drama, doubt, digital noise. You can't go deep when you're being pulled wide. That's what tunnel vision protects. Depth, mastery, meaning. And let's not sugarcoat it: when you start focusing deeply, people will misunderstand you. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're too focused, and maybe you are. But that's the price. You have to be willing to be misunderstood for a season if it means becoming unshakable for a lifetime. The world celebrates results, but it often ridicules the silence it takes to create them. You have to remember, this is not about ignoring people. It's about prioritizing purpose. You don't need to explain your boundaries to everyone. You don't owe the world access to your process. Not everyone deserves a seat at the table where you're crafting your vision. Some people are loud about things they've never built. Let them talk. Your job is to keep building. Philosophically, tunnel vision is really about alignment. It's choosing to live in harmony with your values, your purpose, and your future self. It's stepping away from the noise of trends, opinions, even ego, and asking what really matters. What do I want my life to stand for? What legacy am I building? One decision at a time. Because if your actions aren't aligned with your answer, then you're not progressing, you're just performing. And performance will always drain you more than purpose. You don't need to be busy, you need to be directed. You don't need to do more, you need to do what matters. Let's get practical. Start eliminating. Look at your calendar, your screen time, your relationships, your habits. What in your life is costing you clarity? What is pulling your attention but giving you nothing in return? Cut it. Reduce it. Replace it with something that fuels your fire. You can't afford to waste time wondering what people will think if you go all in. You can't afford to keep putting off your purpose until conditions are perfect. Focus isn't just about removing the negative, it's about doubling down on the essential. And here's the paradox: the more you focus, the simpler your life becomes, but the more powerful you become within it, because clarity breeds action, and consistent action compounds. Suddenly, you're not just making progress, you're becoming someone different, someone disciplined, someone intentional, someone free. Distraction is comforting because it gives you an excuse. I was too busy. I got pulled into this situation. I was helping someone else. But focus removes excuses. It demands ownership. It demands presence. That's why it's uncomfortable, but also why it's so powerful. So if you're serious about your goal, If you actually want to see it manifest, you have to make peace with the discipline of focus. It won't always feel good. It won't always feel fair, but it will always move you forward. And ultimately, that's what matters. Not how fast you go, not how loudly you're applauded, but whether you're moving forward, aligned, anchored, and locked in. There's a hard truth we don't talk about enough. Your goal, your dream, your calling, it requires loyalty. Not when it's easy, not when it's popular, but especially when it's hard, when it's quiet, when no one's clapping, and when you're the only one who sees the value in what you're doing. That's the point where most people quit, and that's the exact moment that separates those who wish from those who commit. We live in a culture addicted to visibility. We want instant results, overnight praise, viral recognition. But the reality is, the most transformative work you'll ever do happens in private. The kind of work where no one is watching, no likes, no validation. Just you, your discipline, and your vision. And that's the moment your loyalty is tested, not to a job or a title or an image, but to yourself. Are you still showing up for your goals when the world isn't watching? Are you still putting in the work even when the outcome is uncertain? See, loyalty to your goal means saying no often, saying no to distractions, no to comfort, no to the short-term applause that pulls you away from long-term purpose. It's not about being cold or rigid, it's about being aligned. You don't get to build a strong foundation if you're constantly digging up your roots every time something newer, easier, or shinier comes along. Now, psychologically, we're wired to avoid discomfort. The brain loves patterns. It seeks safety and predictability. But growth, real growth, demands you lean into resistance. That means showing up when you're tired, staying disciplined when it's boring, and not abandoning ship just because the sea got rough. You want to build something real, you have to stop negotiating with your excuses. And let's be honest, excuses are clever. They sound reasonable. I'm too busy. I'll start next week. Maybe I'm just not ready. But here's the thing. Every excuse you give power to is time you're stealing from your future self. And every delay adds distance between you and your goal. That's not time you're going to get back. You don't need more motivation. You need more loyalty. Loyalty is what keeps you going after motivation runs out. Motivation is a feeling. It's unpredictable. It comes and goes. But loyalty, that's a decision. That's a commitment. That's waking up every day and choosing your goal again, even when it's inconvenient, even when it hurts, even when no one else understands. I'll tell you something else. Your goal is watching how you treat it. Every time you skip the work, every time you choose comfort over consistency, you're sending a message. And what you're really saying is, this matters, but not enough. Your actions always tell the truth, even when your words try to dress it up. You don't get to claim a goal you're not willing to serve. That's not ambition, that's fantasy. And I want to push on this a little deeper, because this isn't just about productivity, it's about identity. When you stay loyal to your goal, you're building something far more important than the goal itself. You're building trust with yourself. And that's one of the most valuable assets you'll ever have. Because when you trust yourself, when you know you'll show up no matter what, you become unstoppable. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't need the room to believe in you. You believe in yourself because you've seen the receipts. You've done the work. Philosophically, this is where legacy is formed. Not in the moments of praise or the mountaintop experiences, but in the trenches, in the grind, in the early mornings and late nights when you're choosing your purpose over your preference. That's where you become who you were meant to be, not by talking about your goals, but by quietly proving your loyalty to them every single day. I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying it's worth it. There will be days when quitting feels justified. There will be seasons where no progress is visible. But just because you can't see the outcome yet doesn't mean your effort is wasted. Roots grow underground before anything blossoms. And if you stay loyal to the process, the results will take care of themselves. But here's the truth most people won't tell you sometimes. Loyalty looks like isolation. When you're committed, you're going to lose some people. You're going to miss out on some things. And that's the cost of alignment. That's the price of elevation. You can't climb while clinging. You can't ascend while appeasing. The higher you go, the more narrow the path becomes. But also, the clearer the vision gets. And what you lose in convenience, you gain in clarity. So ask yourself, are you loyal to your distractions or your destiny? Are you more committed to being comfortable or being fulfilled? Because the life you want, the version of yourself you admire, isn't built by choosing easy. It's built by choosing loyalty, again and again and again. Let me leave you with this. Let's talk about what really drives people. Because at the surface, it might look like success, money, recognition. But underneath it all, most people are chasing something much deeper. They're chasing meaning. They want to feel that their life matters, that what they're doing isn't just a series of tasks, but part of a bigger picture. And that's why this final point matters, because real fulfillment doesn't come from attention. It comes from alignment. And here's the problem in this digital age: attention is addictive. It gives us a dopamine hit. It feels like validation, like proof we're on the right track. But here's the truth: being seen doesn't mean you're successful. Being known doesn't mean you're fulfilled. You can be visible and still be empty. You can be praised and still feel lost. Because attention is external. It fluctuates. It fades. But alignment, that's internal. That's where your peace lies. So what does alignment look like in practice? It looks like doing work that reflects who you really are. It means making decisions that honor your values, not just your image. It means saying yes to things that feel right in your soul, even when they don't make sense to everyone else. It means choosing long-term meaning over short-term applause. That's where real success lies. In that quiet space where who you are, what you believe, and what you do are all moving in the same direction. This kind of clarity doesn't happen by accident. It takes time. It takes honesty, and it often takes breaking free from what the world tells you to value. Because we are constantly being marketed someone else's version of fulfillment: more followers, more likes, more things, more noise. But the deeper you get into that chase, the more disconnected you feel. You don't need more eyes on you. You need more intention within you. Philosophically, this speaks to a deeper truth about human nature. We are not just goal-seeking beings. We are meaning-seeking beings. We don't just want outcomes. We want outcomes that resonate, that fulfill something internal, that align with a sense of purpose. Otherwise, it's just motion. It's busy work. And there's nothing more exhausting than working hard on something that doesn't align with your soul. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing bad about being recognized. There's nothing wrong with receiving attention. But when it becomes your motivation, when it becomes the compass by which you make decisions, you'll start drifting. You'll trade authenticity for approval. And that trade always costs more than it gives. It's easy to build something impressive. It's harder to build something authentic, because authentic work takes longer. It's less flashy. It doesn't always go viral, but it lasts. It satisfies. It gives you that quiet confidence that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, even if no one else sees it yet. And here's what's even more powerful. When you start living in alignment, you don't need the noise anymore. You don't need everyone to agree with you. You don't need constant feedback to feel confident, because you've built something inside that no one can take away. That's real freedom. That's what makes people resilient. When their sense of purpose isn't hanging on outside approval, they can weather rejection, silence, and setbacks because they're anchored in something deeper. From a psychological standpoint, this is also where emotional stability is born. People who are chasing attention often experience burnout, anxiety, and imposter syndrome, not because they're weak, but because they're out of sync with what actually matters to them. When you live for the crowd, you eventually lose yourself in it. But when you live in alignment, you gain energy, you gain momentum. You start waking up with clarity, not confusion. Peace, not pressure. And let's be real, this kind of alignment takes courage. It means sometimes walking away from what's popular, what's trendy, even what's profitable in the short term. It means getting quiet enough to hear your own voice, not just echo everyone else's. It means being willing to slow down so you can go deeper. But that depth is where transformation lies. You have to stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what will this cost me if I betray myself? Because every time you choose the crowd over your calling, you're compromising your own foundation. And no matter how high you build, it won't last if the foundation isn't honest. So if you want to focus on your goal, really focus. You have to strip away the need to be seen and replace it with the need to be true. You have to stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment. The most powerful people aren't loud, they're clear. They don't need to prove anything because their life shows it. You don't need the whole world to understand what you're building. You just need to stay committed to it. Not every season is meant to be shared. Some seasons are meant to be sacred, guarded, protected, built in silence so they can last in strength. So if you're feeling unseen right now, if your journey feels invisible, good. That means you're probably doing something real, something meaningful. Don't rush to expose what's still being shaped. Let it form. Let it grow. Let it align. Because when all is said and done, you won't remember the likes. You won't remember the retweets. You remember the moments you said yes to your own soul. The moments you chose purpose over pressure. The moments you followed your inner compass, even when the world was looking the other way. And that's how you build a life that actually fulfills you, not by being the loudest in the room, but by being the most aligned in it. Let me leave you with this.